mysteriously becoming a shop assistant introduction. Come and read more of my works on the website of Yuan. In a dream. I am shop manager too. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Have you ever read a book? How did you write the character, Fennel, in Fennel Bean? With this sentence ringing in his ear, Chen Ku's blurry eyes suddenly appeared with a person. Is this a dream? Let's close your eyes and sleep for a while. This dream is not very good. Half loud, my face was lightly slapped by a palm, and I opened my eyes in confusion, just being slapped by the person who had just worn long sleeves. Who are you? Chen Ku asked the person in front of him in shock. I, Meng Yumo, had just asked you for some fennel beans. Seeing that you looked unfamiliar and that you were not very old, I wanted to ask if you know how to write the fennel character for fennel beans. If you don't know, I'll teach you. I blurted out, isn't it a back and forth reply under the grass? As Chen Ku finished speaking, he closed his eyes and muttered to himself, what kind of ghost Meng, dream, is it? I have to wake up early tomorrow, and today is the day of the week. Every time Chen Ku thinks in his dream about what day it is today, and he can wake up in his dream after thinking about it. Every time he tries this repeatedly, Chen Ku's mind is still blank. Suddenly, his forehead heats up. What's going on? Looking for the restroom in his dream, he must be holding urine when he wakes up. He probably also wets the bed, but he hasn't seen his head heat up in his dream. Is it because the blanket covers his head and it's stuffy? Chen Ku is so hot. As soon as he opened his eyes, something strange happened. In his left eye, he saw Meng Yumo's palm touching his forehead, his face slightly uneasy, but in his right eye, he saw another scene. He saw the ceiling, but his forehead was touched by a man in a white coat. Someone vaguely shouted, he woke up. Hurry up, increase the dose, don't stop. A slight pain came from his arm, and gradually a hint of drowsiness poured into his mind. Chen Ku couldn't resist the drowsiness, and then fled in fear. He turned his hand over his head, avoided it, but the drowsiness was unbearable. He closed his eyes again. This dream is too scary, but should I wake up? If I don't wake up again, I'll be late. Are I late? What day of the week is it today? Chen Ku, relying on his usual dream experience, remembered which day of the week he would wake up from his dream, but today he couldn't remember it. Curious and strange, he saw warmth coming back from his forehead, and at the same time, his ears ringing again. Little brother, wake up, what's wrong with you, was Meng Yumo's voice. Curious, he was also drunk if this dream could continue. Suddenly, Chen Ku remembered something. He slowly opened his right eye, and what caught his eye was Meng Yumo's concerned expression. He repeated, you wake up, Chen Ku responded, followed by a trembling and extremely slow left support. Eyes, the scene he saw with his left eye was still the figure in a white coat. Although he was wearing a mask, his eyes showed a hint of helplessness, but the scene he saw with his left eye was clearly static. He couldn't notice his breathing body. In the next second, the scene he saw with his left eye slowly faded, gradually appearing and completing the scene around Meng Yumo. Is it cached? Ctrl plus F5 for a moment, a sentence came to mind. Chen Ku instinctively closed his eyes, then reopened them the next second. Meng Yumo's expression softened a lot, and the corner of his mouth murmured, what's wrong with you, little brother? In just one moment, you were confused 2 or 3 times. I'm fine, Chen Ku deliberately lengthened his voice, afraid that the scene in front of him would change after saying the word, I'm fine. Oh, that's good. Meng Yumo didn't notice anything unusual about Chen Ku and responded, where did you just say? Just now. Can you recall the scene from the previous dream? Chen Ku recalled Meng Yumo's self-introduction. You just said your name was Meng Yu, and Chen Ku tentatively said a funny name. He wanted to verify whether 2 dreams were connected, not Meng Yu. Now Meng Yumo remembered. Just now, when I tested you on fennel beans, you said a sentence in cursive script that made you confused. I also told you that there are 4 ways to write fennel characters, 4 different ways. I spoke in question about the 4 things that were right. Meng Yuma's hand was dipped in wine and he was writing on the countertop. Fun, the remaining 3 words couldn't be typed. Looking at the 3 unfamiliar words behind fun, suddenly remembered that he hadn't seen these 3 words. It's impossible. In his dream, he would only see a knowledge he had learned. How could he learn new knowledge? Suddenly, his head was stimulated by a burst of pain, and Chenku's forehead was sweating profusely. He felt his CPU burning and wanted to lie down in place. Meng Yuma noticed a strange concern and asked, "Are you still feeling unwell, little brother? If I don't help you go up and rest." "Well, I remember your room was upstairs, the first room on the left." "No need," Chenku urgently needed to be alone. He needed to relax because in previous dreams, people in dreams would always be entangled. Only when they calmed down would they fall into deep sleep again. After refusing, Chenku walked up the stairs and looked for the book garden www.xiaojuan.com. After going upstairs, the first attic was quite large. Pushing open the door of the attic, what caught his eye was the gorgeous decoration. In the middle of the house was a large bed, which was in Chenku's mind, he urgently needed such a bed. Without thinking about it, he took off his shoes 3 times, 5 out of 2, and didn't have time to take off his clothes. His heavy head tilted down on the bed, muttering to himself that he should wake up and end this farce. The soft bed quickly put Chenku into a deep sleep, but the scene before his eyes reappeared. He was lying in bed, more accurately, on the hospital bed, a bit cold. Chenku didn't open his eyes at this moment, and the white coat in front of the bed murmured softly, probably not waking up. He had already increased the dosage and needed no more injections to ensure everything was safe. The stabbing pain in Chenku's right arm, is that a syringe? It's been a long time since he received the injection, because he was afraid of it. Previously, he tried to avoid getting punctured with the flu as much as possible, but now Chenku dare not show any signs, or rather cannot, because after this injection, he gradually fell into a coma. What's going on? He has dreamed of many scenes before, and there haven't been more than 3 scenes in his dream before. Now it's the 3rd scene. The dream should wake up now. End this farce. Tomorrow is really going to work, and he will be late. Suddenly, there is a slight pain on both sides of his cheeks, although my consciousness is blurry, I can feel it, my eyelids slightly open, and I can see the other person. Still the same doctor, he patted Chenku's face while muttering to himself, "Don't wake up again, little brother. If you wake up again, I will be fired." Chenku was greatly shocked, but he couldn't resist the drowsiness and fell asleep. What he didn't know was that his cheeks had already turned red from the slap, but his white coat didn't mean to stop. This lasted for a few more seconds, and his hands also turned red before he stopped. He raised his lips and muttered to himself, "I'll take care of another one." After finishing work, he said he left the hospital room, leaving Chenku lying still. At this moment, he was completely unconscious. From the fragrant boudoir to the confessing Shura field. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the soft bed, Chenku gradually entered a deeper level of sleep, peacefully sleeping and thinking that he should return to the real bed after waking up. After only feeling for a while, a burning pain came from his cheeks, as if he had been slapped. Chenku suddenly opened his eyes and saw himself lying on the ground. Wasn't he on the bed just now? Is it another scene now? There was a burly man squatting beside him, his hands patting on Chenku's face. Chenku's face had already turned slightly red. Chenku suddenly straightened up and said, "Big brother, what's wrong with you? Why did you hit me? Why did you hit you? Do you know what you did? You just lay on my young lady's bed, and my young lady was resting next to her. If it weren't for my young lady, who noticed and shouted in time, you would have tarnished her. I'm innocent now. You slept so soundly. When my young lady shouted, she didn't wake up. We threw you out of bed and didn't wake up. We insisted that I slap you dozens of times before you woke up. After you woke up, the first thing you said was, "Why did I hit you?" Second coup, tell the truth. Have you ever done anything to my young lady over there before you went to bed? Believe it or not, I will report to the authorities and arrest someone. I will hit you 50 times, not 100 times, and even 100 times will not relieve your anger. That's my young lady. How about 200 times, or 200 times? A slightly emaciated figure appeared next to the burly man and said, 205. Chen Ku heard the words that usually make him burst into laughter, but now they became the key for Chen Ku to open his memory. 205, Chen Ku muttered to himself, and his head suddenly felt a sharp pain, as if something was invading his head. Ah, it hurts so much, Chen Ku cried out in pain, while his body rolled on the ground. The two big men beside him were stunned and said in unison, "Is it so exaggerated?" The thin and small man, leisurely, saying, "Could it be your slap just now that he just felt it?" "That's impossible, is it that slow?" The two of them looked at each other, quietly watching Chen Ku's performance. Chen Ku was now facing great pain, and his mind was filled with scenes one after another that seemed familiar, both ancient and modern, intertwined and changing. Finally, they froze in front of one scene. At this moment, he was standing in the middle of a candle arranged as a love, holding a bouquet of roses, surrounded by a group of onlookers. It seemed like they were shouting something again, but Chen Ku didn't hear it. Gradually, Chen Ku's ears gradually recovered from their deafness. 205, 205, 205, 205, a mocking expression gradually appeared on their faces. The more they shouted, and they didn't mind the big deal. Chen Ku's pain in his brain became lighter and lighter, but his face became more and more ugly. This scene seemed to be a familiar one to him. Where is this? Chen Ku asked in confusion. He was very familiar with this scene, but couldn't remember it anymore. Looking around, there was no familiar face, not really. Where are you? You're confessing your feelings, big brother. A burly figure appeared in front of me, with a face that was exactly that of a burly man in the scene just now. But at this moment, he was dressed up as a girl. That's right, she's a girl now, with the same face but growing on her face. If you can't figure it out, please refer to the female version of Yu Yunpeng. That's right, you want to eat swan meat to our little clean toad and forcefully confess. Isn't that the candle on the ground that you set up? This voice came from behind the big girl with a strong personality. I saw a slightly skinny girl walking out from behind the big girl, with a face that was exactly the same as the skinny man in the previous scene. At this moment, she was also dressed up as a girl, either she or a girl. The scene change and the gender change of those two people left Chen Ku at a loss. He stared at them dumbfounded, wondering if there was something wrong with you too. This was just Chen Ku's inner OS, and he didn't say it. Chen Ku calmed down a bit. Why did the scene change so much? This dream was too bizarre. He shook his head, or he desperately shook his head, trying to get his brain into it. The water dries, but it seems to have no effect. Stop, 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 stop. Chen Ku turned around and gestured to stop with both hands. As everyone's voices weakened, Chen Ku slowly said, "My surname is Chen, my name is Ku, and my real name declares that I don't know the two women in front of me at all. I don't even know their little sister. It's absurd to say that I forcibly confessed to their young lady. I can't have admiration for people I don't know, let alone relentlessly pursue people I've never met before. So the only reason is that they falsely accused me, and you bystanders have been shouting at me for 205 times. I also feel inexplicable. Interestingly, you know that shouting this word at me is an insult to my personality. Those who don't know are not guilty. Now I forgive your ignorance. Let's all scatter and go home and find our mothers. Chen Ku waved his hands and put on a driving posture, but the people didn't appreciate it. No one wanted to go. Instead, a person who saw the bustle and didn't mind the big thing shouted. 205, he started, and the people shouted again. Chen Ku was a little helpless. In the face of the crowd's chorus, Chen Ku was helpless, and could only turn his head and pinch two soft persimmons who were relatively soft. Chen Ku said sharply, I said you too, and I should also pay attention to evidence to slander you. There is no evidence. Why do you say I chased your young lady hard, and I should also chase her? Do you have any action? If you don't have any action, you can't rely on your words. Speak freely, slander me, and be careful that I accuse you of slander. Chen Ku is more and more impatient with this scene. He has dreamed of similar scenes before, but as long as he thinks of the antecedents of this scene in his dream, as long as he thinks of these scenes, there is no logic at all. Problems such as why I want to express myself, who I want to express, what she and I have experienced. As soon as he thinks of these reasons, the foam of the dream will gradually burst, and the dream will wake up. The best achievement once was that I almost and a strange girl, a person who was pure in my imagination, never seen in reality, I was about to kiss my mouth, but my mouth felt uncomfortable as if it had been glued to by 502. I searched Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but woke up feeling uncomfortable. After waking up, I found that the water cup placed at the head of the bed had been poured, and the water flowed to my mouth. I felt the cold water at the corner of my mouth, stimulating my brain nerves before waking up. At that moment, I felt 10,000 alpacas rushing by, and I felt uncomfortable with shiitake mushrooms. I didn't think about it anymore. Chen Ku shook his head and threw the problem at them first. As long as they couldn't provide evidence, I guess the dream would also wake up. Well, it's certain that I'm late anyway. Didn't the alarm clock ring? Did I play with my phone late and run out of battery? Chen Ku looked at the two of them with a puzzled and provocative expression at the corner of his mouth. He had no choice but to wake up quickly. If he could make me not be late for work, he wouldn't have the same understanding as you. Little cuties, my brother would miss you. In Chen Ku's opinion, he was already prepared to wake up from his dream because he didn't know how to set candles with a stranger on the street, so he wouldn't leave any evidence. The only explanation was that it was a dream, a baseless bitter spring dream. As Chen Ku sighed, a burly and powerful voice broke the silence. Do you need evidence? I have it, look at what it is. The speaker was the burly girl. Although she wore a man's face, her appearance did not affect others seeing her as a girl. Xiaojie blamed me for the need for the plot, the need for the plot, the need for the plot, haha, referring to the female version of Yu Yunpeng. The girl took out a letter from somewhere and placed it in Chen Ku's hand, which was just pretending to make the two of them produce evidence, with a serious expression. With a determined expression, look at this, look at this. Seeing Chen Ku without any reaction, she reminded her that she had no idea what Chen Ku was thinking. Chen Ku looked at the letter in his hand in shock, trembling and walking on thin ice as he approached. The first line addressed he ran, saying, Dear Mosaic, Masaga. It was just that the mosaic image was blurry, not the three words, mosaic. Chen Ku suddenly felt black in front of him. What a ghost, watch, not, playing with me. I'm exaggerating, do I like Xiao Jie or Mississippi? That's a question. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Chen Ku's eyes darkened, they soon lit up again. Did he wake up from his dream? Very good, very good, very good, he will no longer be entangled in his dream. It's dawn, I woke up from my dream, little brother. I'm going to work now. Fate is hard, life is already so difficult, and I have to rack my brain in this strange dream. I don't even know what day of the week it is today. If it's Saturday, working half the day, having a meeting or chatting, it's hard, I must reward myself. I stayed up all night on Saturday night. Now Qin has a deep hatred for the dream he is in. However, I think it would be great if he could wake up from this dream. If he didn't sleep, he wouldn't dream. It would be good if he didn't sleep. He stretched lazily and calmly opened his eyes. High energy warning, barrage protection. What came into view was actually, that Biao. Big Han, oh no, big sister Biao. He was holding a confession candle on the ground and swaying it in front of Qin. The light in front of Qin was not dawn or waking up from a dream, but because big sister Biao was holding the candle to light up Qin's eyes. At this moment, Qin's body, which was stretching lazily, instantly petrified. This laziness was really embarrassing and couldn't be taken back. Big sister Biao quietly felt the inexplicable laziness in Qin's eyes, although puzzled, still urged him. What's going on? Look quickly, it's getting dark, so I'm afraid your eyes won't look good. I'll show you the candle myself. Is it the confession letter you wrote? As I spoke, I bent down to pick up the letter that had just fallen from Qin's hand to the ground. I held the letter in one hand and the candle in the other. Qin didn't react to his lazy waist when he saw the young lady. His mind turned and he said, as long as she doesn't notice any awkwardness, I don't feel embarrassed. My body slowly recovers and he said calmly, just now, the black light was on, and my head was about to explode. I stretched lazily and slowed down. Qin took the candle and the letter as he took it. As he spoke bitterly, Qin leaned the candle over the letter and looked into it in detail. The light of the candle shone brightly on the letter. The first sentence was, Dear Mosaic, coding. Qin os. Sweating profusely, my family, why do we still have the code? Just ask, how could we see coding in reality, faint? Qin was already speechless. He continued to read the entire text. Dear Mosaic, coding, Mosaic, the first time I saw you, I was attracted by your face. I really didn't lie to you, you are really beautiful and beautiful, my delicate face is so beautiful that I can't help but feel helpless and unable to leave your face. It's the most beautiful face I've ever seen. Every time I meet you, I stare at your face and blush. I really want to protect you, but I'm still very weak. Once, when I saw your things being played with by others, I should have tried to stop them, but they were pitiful and helpless. Compared to their arrogant and domineering bad students, their combat power is really useless. Moreover, I have no position to stop them. After all, I was just an ordinary male classmate who had never spoken to you. That day, I mustered up the courage to call your name, Mosaic, your thing, playfully. Yida. Without saying anything else, you seemed to immediately understand something, probably played with it before. You hurriedly returned to the classroom and saw them playing with your thing. Without hesitation, you pushed away those male classmates and took back your thing. Love your house and love your dog, and I was also very happy. I no longer remember your expression, whether you were grateful to me or something, because I was really happy and excited, I called out your name to remind you. At that time, I saw your things being played with, which was even more uncomfortable than playing with my things. As the owner of your things, you had an absolute stance to take back your things, which was much stronger than me using the strength of the fifth scumbag to snatch them back. I apologize. As a fifth scumbag, I can only protect you in this way. Mosaic, I love you. You seem to be the person engraved in my DNA that needs to be remembered. Seeing you triggered my love brain cells. I think I will never regret loving you in my life, dear Mosaic. I really want to know that you. My feeling is that one day, I hope to have a night chat with you under the moon. Although we are not childhood sweethearts, nor are we just strangers, I still want to spend the rest of my life drinking and chatting with you, sighing about the geometry of life, and looking forward to a reply. Thank you, Qin. After reading the letter, Qin's mind was blank. Except for his signature, the entire letter was true, and there was no impression of anything else. Have I ever lived like this? Have I ever written these sentences? Do people who usually dare not speak loudly to their leaders really write such cheesy words? At this moment, Chen Ke's mind is just blank, there was no reaction in his mind, and this blank memory did not cause any pain. However, the signature of these two characters by Chen Ke was indeed his own handwriting, crooked and twisted. He wrote it 10 times, but probably not a single time it was a duplicate handwriting. He asked Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, "Is this really what I wrote, and this is not what you can still be?" The handwriting is so messy and unique that others cannot replicate it. You are truly worthy of others calling you 205. Chen Ke laughed blankly, but he didn't care about her ridicule. He was just working hard. Looking back on this memory, unfortunately there is still no result. Is it another parallel time and space Chen Ke? He jumped out of his own Chen Ke identity and came to a conclusion. I argued, my handwriting and signature are correct, but I have no impression of this matter. Perhaps it was written when my mind was not clear. Drunken and singing, life's geometry, childhood sweethearts, two young people without guessing, when the moon will be bright, asking the blue sky about wine. These are all people and things that I like, things, and hallucinations I imagine under drunkenness. Describing her, have you seen my nickname for your young lady? Chen Ke pointed to the first line of the letter and said, Xiaojie, 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 isn't a young lady. Big brother, others are just ordinary people. No distinction, what's wrong with you? Don't you have a different tone? Look at your blindness. Isn't this written about Xiaojie? She also pointed to the first line of the title, typing, do you think I'm her maid, and asked me to call her Mississippi. Besides, don't you know what it means to call someone Miss now? If you want to clear the misunderstanding, unless you can prove that you have a clear relationship with Miss, Xiaojie, Xiaojie, and there is evidence to prove that you have a clear relationship with Xiaojie. Chen Ke was already confused, lost in thought, isn't it a maid? I always had a preconceived belief that I was talking about a young lady, but did she see Xiaojie? And the mosaic I saw, VIP can see it, right? How can I prove it by lying down? Chen Ke looked around again and suddenly noticed a handsome young man with high looks. With a smile on his lips, he walked towards the crowd. If you have it, let it go. If you watch me laugh, I'll let you know the end of watching me laugh. Anyway, it's in your dream. Cousin and cousin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Ke firmly believed that whenever there was something exciting in his dream, he would definitely wake up. He thought he would pull the little handsome guy's body and say, wake up. The little handsome guy took advantage of not paying attention and desperately leaned his mouth towards his face. At 30 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and just 3 centimeters away, Chen Ke also shyly closed his eyes. He had never kissed a woman before. Now that he was going to kiss a man, he was really drunk. Fortunately, he was handsome and not bad. Just 1 centimeter later, a thin and smooth hand pressed against Chen Ke's mouth. Chen Ke thought confidently, great, dream. I can't bear the excitement anymore. Maybe my colleague came to see me when he saw that I wasn't at work. He must have seen my spring dream mouth pout and blocked my mouth with his hand. Oh, that would be too embarrassing. Forget it, just wake up and feel relieved. He opened his eyes trembling nervously, high energy ahead. After opening his eyes, the scene in front of Chen Ke was visible to the naked eye, and cracks appeared. Then the cracks gradually refined. Suddenly, the scene turned into powder, and then it was reorganized at a very fast speed. To Chen Ke's shock, at the moment, his mouth was approaching a waiter like little brother. Chen Ke's mouth was blocked by his hand, and he pushed his mouth away with all his strength. What a fuss! My God, Chen Ke exclaimed in his heart, is there a dream in the dream, and there is no limit to fighting, right? Although Chen Ke's scene is cool, his mouth is kissing a man's hand, and the scene is extremely embarrassing, he immediately bounced open. He looked around, and the scene returned to the previous boudoir where he had entered the wrong room. Just now, Qin Ku was frivolous. Qin Ku looked carefully at the little second brother. He looked like he was 18 years old, with bright eyes and white teeth, and black hair. Although he was a boy, his skin was white and delicate. His eyes were bright, and his big watery eyes shone like fireflies. Qin Ku was dazed. The little second brother secretly looked at Qin Ku and stared at himself, but he lowered his head shyly. Qin Ku realized his loss of composure when he saw him bowing his head. Qin Ku had been observing him for a long time, not because he had the pleasure of a dragon, but because he vaguely felt that although the young man was dressed in the clothes of the younger brother, he had a different temperament. Qin Ku was already suspecting whether he had a bisexual habit. Cough, cough, suddenly a man's cough came from Qin Ku's ear. Qin Ku turned his head and saw that the owner of this voice was the burly man he had seen in the previous boudoir scene. Qin Ku looked carefully and saw that he was a burly man, tall and upright. His skin, after being exposed to wind and sun, appears dark and his beard is short and rough. His eyes were deep, making it difficult for people to look directly at him. His face was indeed more suitable for men to appear on, which was much more comfortable than the previous scene. To ease the embarrassment, Qin Ku raised his right hand and shook it, high. The man said, "Are you okay?" "What's wrong?" "I'm okay." "What's okay?" "You've been holding your head on the ground for half a day, but suddenly, you stood up with a cold face and said, 'The man I like,' and then forcefully hugged our little brother. The little brother kissed me fiercely, and it was okay. My little brother reacted and blocked your mouth with his hand, otherwise you would tarnish my little brother's innocence again." The person speaking was the thin man, who was slender and had smooth lines. His nose bridge is high and straight, his lips are clearly defined, his jaw lines are elegant, his hands are slender and powerful, and every movement appears so elegant and composed. His temperament is introverted and not flamboyant, but his face makes it impossible for people to ignore his existence. To be honest, it's a bit cockeyed, and his face is indeed more suitable for growing on men's heads. I've had an old habit," he said. I really don't know how to explain to them the scene that just came to Qin Ku's mind. Compared to the previous scene, their men look much kinder. What old habit? Can it be contagious? Will it make me headache too, and then I like men? The thin man asked, "Do you need it?" Qin Ku seemed to hear a hint of anticipation in his tone and said, "Can you? Every time I look in the mirror, I feel very beautiful. I can't even look up to ordinary women, and I gradually want to experience what it feels like to like men." Qin Ku widened his eyes and opened his mouth slightly. He couldn't believe what he heard. He really opened his eyes and couldn't accept the situation for a while. "Xinggu, stop joking. To be honest, did you forget that this kid just lay on the young lady's bed and was disrespectful to her? Don't talk nonsense, I don't even know what your young lady looks like. He doesn't even know whether he's a man or a woman. I know, how could I possibly underestimate her?" Qin Ku has already witnessed the gender transition in the scene just now, and has been searching for books on www.xiaojuan.com for so long. He has not seen her figure or face, and he can no longer determine whether the young lady is male or female. "What do you mean? Of course my young lady is female. My young lady is as beautiful as a fairy. Her face is exquisite as a painting, and her facial features are exquisite, as if an artist has carefully outlined them with the most delicate strokes. Her eyes were clear and bright, like watery pupils, exuding a breath of intelligence and agility. Her skin was fair and flawless, as if it could be broken by a blow, emitting a natural luster." "Are you describing your young lady? How do I feel like you're describing this brother?" She pointed to the little second brother who was almost kissed by Qin Ku just now. "Except for his gender, your description was exactly the same." Qin Ku added. The burly man stood there, nervously clenching his hands, with small beads of sweat on his forehead. He tried to speak, but his mouth didn't listen and could only make intermittent sounds. His breathing was rapid, and the expression on his face was slightly stiff. He was him. Yes, I'm her cousin. My cousin just fell asleep, and I came to find her. I found you in her bed, and then I called for Chun and Zheng to wake you up. I found out you didn't wake up, so Chun patted you. Later, you woke up, and Zheng said those 3 words. You rolled your head on the ground like you were crazy, but then woke up again, as if you were okay, with a murderous look in your eyes. You said 3 words to me, and then you wanted to kiss me. Fortunately, I reacted quickly, otherwise you would underestimate me again. What did Chen Ku think of? What did he mean by what he said? Did he also experience the scene just now? You used to underestimate my sister, but now you underestimate me, isn't it? Chen Ku finally realized, I'm sorry, I might have walked into the wrong room, too tired, fell asleep, heard those 3 words, made a mistake, and later said those 3 words to you. Is it Xiaojie or Mississippi? This is also a question. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The thin man asked suspiciously, as long as I say 205, you will. After a while, Chen Ku leaned straight towards the little second brother. Fortunately, the little second brother was already prepared and quickly blocked his mouth. It was Chen Ku's turn to be surprised. What's going on? Is it a continuation of the previous scene? Has this little second brother also been to that scene? Chen Ku awkwardly moved his mouth, trying to cover up his panic. He began to search for his memories, thinking to himself, what's wrong with me? Is it a sequela of the scene? Why do I get so close to that little guy when it comes to those 3 words? What kind of ghost dream is this? Can you give me a little more normalcy? Laozi likes women and doesn't have the pleasure of being a good dragon. He secretly glanced at the performance of the younger brother and found that he wiped his hands with a handkerchief. Is it my mouth or saliva? No, how could he use such a handkerchief as a man? The edges of the handkerchief are surrounded by exquisite embroidery, highlighting a feminine atmosphere. It has a pink floral pattern embroidered in the middle, which looks a bit like daffodils. Although the handkerchief is simple, it exudes a luxurious aura. At first glance, it's not simple. Shouldn't this handkerchief be used by girls? Chen Ku pointed to the second brother's handkerchief and wondered. Oh, this is what my cousin gave me. Girls like flowers and plants. If you like it, I'll ask my cousin to give you one. Little second brother, have you forgotten? This guy just violated you and your cousin in bed. This kid has a malicious heart and pretended to enter the wrong room and bed. Did he come on the first day? He doesn't know that the lady's room cannot be accessed by anyone, and he even lies in the same bed with the lady. This kid definitely has a problem. The burly man picked up Chen Ku and pressed him against the wall seat. Zishang, his eyes were fixed on Chinka tightly, and he was so overwhelmed that he couldn't breathe. Chinka struggled, shouting to let go, and the second brother gestured for him to let go. The burly man finally let go of Chinka. The released Chinka took a deep breath and said, I said, brother, can you be more civilized? I haven't seen your young lady either. Besides, I don't know what your young lady looks like. I was really tired and came in to sleep. I originally wanted to wake up. Chinka wanted to tell them that they were in their own dreams, don't be too noisy, be careful if you wake up from a dream. They all have to worry, what do you want to do when you wake up? Are you going to take action on the young lady? Do you know how important a girl's reputation is? You'd better explain it well. You're tired in the daytime, so it's not like you're drinking too much. Drinking too much alcohol makes you want to invade my young lady, and in the end, you collapsed on the young lady's bed. Can you explain it to me? Chen Ku thought carefully, but after thinking about it, it seems that Meng Yu wrote a 4-anise character on the table. He felt a strange drowsiness. Is there any alcohol? I'll give it a try. I remember last time I saw the 4 ways of writing fennel in fennel beans, and then a wave of drowsiness hit me. Here, the second brother pointed to the wine on the table on the other side and said. Chen Ku walked to the other side, dipped his hand in the wine, and wrote a character for fennel on the table. After Chen Ku finished writing, there was no response, and he wrote the second fennel, with a cursive head and a back. After Chen Ku finished writing, his mind felt a wave of drowsiness. He supported his head with both hands, shook his head, and wanted to shake off the drowsiness. He said in a deep voice, "I just read this character. No, I looked at 4 characters for fancy, in total, and my mind felt a strong drowsiness." "I don't know what's going on," the burly man exclaimed in a stunned voice. "Is there anything wrong with this character for fancy?" "I don't know," Chen Ku replied. "But I've never seen it before. Last time Meng Yumo wrote it, I realized that what I just wrote from memory has nothing to do with Meng Yumo. He's just a poor scholar. Why did he dance and write in front of you? Don't look at his poor and cliché appearance, but when it comes to writing, he also dances with dragons, phoenixes, and phoenixes. Many masters like to make him write, but his money comes for drinking or buying books. He is wearing a tattered long shirt, dirty and tattered, as if it hasn't been patched or washed for over a decade. Have you ever chatted with him before?" Chen Ku didn't answer and sat down in a nearby chair. "Is Meng Yumo Kong Yiji?" Books say that Kong Yiji's kind side is reflected in his 2 details of teaching children to read and sharing fennel beans for children to eat. Fennel beans are not a rare thing, but in such an era of scarcity, they are truly precious to a poor and destitute person. However, they are divided one by one until there is very little left. Later, he also taught the shop assistant 4 ways to write fennel beans. Isn't this the storyline I have experienced? What happened? Why did I inexplicably become a shop assistant? Why is Meng Yumo not surnamed Kong? Chen Ku pondered and looked for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, only to see a thin and slender hand shaking in front of Chen Ku. "What are you thinking, brother?" The handsome man impatiently said, "I hate your literary demeanor the most. Are you saying that Meng Yumo's writing 4 fennel characters made you dizzy? Don't be too funny, unless you can find him to prove it to us, I will report to the government tomorrow." "Zenggu," the burly man shouted, and attached to the thin man's ear, he said something. The thin man changed his tone and said, "Here's for you. 3 days later, you brought Meng Yumo to our side to prove and show us, but you cannot leave the restaurant or your room for the next 2 days. Be strict with your mouth, otherwise, you will scratch your hand around your neck, pretending to kill someone." Chen Ku shuddered and replied, "By the way, is your young lady called Xiao Jie?" The burly man replied, adding, "Her name is." Before he could finish speaking, the thin man blocked his mouth with his hand and gestured for him to look at the younger brother. I saw the younger brother with a cold face staring at them silently. Chen Ku didn't pay attention to their reactions and asked, "What is his name?" At this moment, the 2 of them did not answer. "My cousin's name is not convenient to reveal. Please don't ask, brother." He said, "I'm tired. You guys should go out first, and I also need to rest." The second brother said in a deep voice, "How many of us are men?" Chen Ku asked, Aren't you guys?" "Yes, aren't you also men? Why are you staying in your cousin's room? What do you want?" Chen Ku joked, "I changed my cousin's house because you've slept on this bed before, even though you've changed the blanket and bedding. What's going on? She still doesn't want to sleep here." She moved to the next room, and as she spoke, the 3 of them pushed out of the room. They locked the door slightly when they got in, confirmed it was locked, and then fell into a deep sleep on the bed. Once again at dawn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Chen Ku left the room, he was immediately locked by 2 men with his hands clasped against the door, inexplicable. The 2 men were tightly clasped together. "Kid, the second younger brother is not here now. You need to tell the truth. What is your relationship with the second younger brother?" Why does the second younger brother easily believe your slander? He even said he would help you find a young lady and ask for a handkerchief. Chen Ku felt helpless in an instant. This is also the first time we have met, and you know that I just underestimated him. He has a good personality, and I don't know why. I think he is a bit friendly. Kind. He said it too low. Key, intimacy is accurate. The person speaking was the thin man, and Chen Ku didn't know that if a man dares to touch him. Little second brother's hand has no good ending, and just now Chen Ku kissed little second brother's hand twice with his mouth. Little second brother was so calm that he used her precious handkerchief to wipe his hand, which was unimaginable for the two of them. Usually, when other men touch his hand, it's basically 200 big boards. If you add another 50, 2 times will be 500 big boards. He's not angry about this frivolity, but he can only say that you two are already close. The thin man said leisurely, you must have some tricks, speak quickly. Chen Ku innocently said, brother, this is the first time we've met. For me, he's just a kind-hearted boy. If I were close to him, how could I not even know his name? If you're so curious, it's better to ask him yourself. I dare not, the two men said in unison, clasping Chen Ku's hands and letting them relax a bit. Chen saw their reaction and seemed to understand something. Then he said, maybe it's the first time we've met, but I don't know if he's the first time we've met. You really feel that he and I have an intimate relationship, and you're not afraid he'll stand up for me. Look, you probably were very afraid of him when you showed him your respect just now. Do you dare to lock me? Are you not going to die? Do you want to wait and let go of me first? Chen Ku seemed to request, but the two men heard it as a threat. After thinking about it, they did make some sense. Their hands slowly let go, and after a while, the burly man said with a slight pleading, this little brother, you have offended me so much just now. Please don't mind letting me go. If you have any instructions, just let me know. Huh, what a ghost. This attitude has changed. Chen Ku sighed to himself, is that little second brother really so scary? Recalling that he had kissed his hand before, if it were really that scary, wouldn't my mouth have been cut open? Chen Ku shuddered and said, I don't know where I sleep yet, why don't you point to me? The burly man quickly said, it's right ahead, the first house, pointing to the shabby wooden door not far ahead, the first room. Meng Yuma had already pointed out that my room was the first, so it was so secretive that no wonder I entered the wrong room. Chen Ku whispered to himself, then pushed forward with a single arrow, pushing open the wooden door. In this dilapidated but warm small room, the traces of time quietly appeared in every corner. There are mottled marks on the wall, as if every crack is telling a story of the past. There are semi-transparent curtains hanging on the window of the room, through which one can vaguely see the scenery outside. The colors of the curtains have faded away, leaving only a faint hue, yet giving a sense of tranquility. In the center of the room is a wooden desk, and the texture on the desktop has become blurred. There is an old-fashioned oil lamp placed on the desk, and the lampshade has turned a bit yellow, but its light is still warm and soft. In the corner of the desk, there is a small book, although it has turned yellow, it is not damaged. There is a worn-out wooden chair in one corner of the room, which is worn out. There is also a book that has been flipped through multiple times, and the corners of the book have been rolled up, and the cover has turned yellow. The whole room, although dilapidated, is filled with a sense of life. Chen Ku felt that this room was warm and special, with a familiar feeling. For this dilapidated but cozy little room, Chen Ku's feeling is that it is not only a room full of vitality and emotions, but also makes people feel a simple and pure beauty. Although the room is dilapidated, every detail reveals the original owner's care and love. This is not only a place to live, but also a place where people can calm down and think about life. In this small room, one can feel the simple beauty of life. This house is pretty good, I'll stay tonight for now. Please go back, Chen Ku said as he closed the door and continued to admire alone. The bed in this room is a simple and comfortable setting. The bed frame is made of dark wood, and after the baptism of time, its edges have become slightly mottled, but it is still sturdy and durable. The bed sheets and bedding are made of plain cotton, giving people a warm and natural feeling. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Pillows and mattresses may be a bit old, but they are very comfortable. Chen Ku can feel relaxed and comfortable as soon as he gently lies down on them. I don't know if it's because the bed was too easy to sleep on, or because Chen Ku hasn't rested for too long and feels very comfortable. After experiencing so many scenes, it's probably the most relaxing place for Chen Ku. The layout of the entire bed is simple and comfortable, without too much decoration. There is a small painting hanging by the bed, and the scenery in the painting is refreshing. Although this painting is not big, it adds a touch of artistic atmosphere to the entire room. The owner of this room seems to be a bit too modern. Chen Ku thought to himself, who he used to be and who had good taste for it. If he had the opportunity, he would really like to see it, but now a wave of drowsiness gradually came over. Just as Chen Ku closed his eyes, the small house in his mind gradually transformed into a different scene. In this dilapidated small room, a suppressed atmosphere slowly permeated the air. The moonlight shone through the broken window and scattered on the ground, forming mottled shadows. A cold wind blew by, and the curtains fluttered, as if something was peeking in the dark. A faint moan came from the corner of the wall, making people shudder. Upon closer inspection, I found a mouse fussing in the corner. Suddenly, there was a strange noise coming from under the floor, as if something was wriggling. The whole room began to tremble slightly, the doors and windows automatically closed, and the wind became even more mournful. A strong sense of fear struck, causing the heart to beat faster and cold sweat to flow. There seems to be an indescribable force permeating the air, which is irresistible. In this terrifying scene in his mind, everything became eerie and terrifying. Every subtle sound and movement made Chen Ku's nerves tense. After a while, Chen Ku suddenly opened his eyes and found that it was dawn, but he still hadn't woken up in his so-called dream. He was still in a dream. Cheer up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Another formal introduction for the first time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Ku unconsciously asked 3 questions about his soul. As soon as he spoke, he felt very abrupt and wanted to make up for it. He immediately said, I was just asking casually just now. Don't worry. The younger brother replied seriously. They may all know. But I really don't know. I was born into a wealthy family since I was young. But I have never been free. The younger brother hesitated a bit and said, when I was a child, I wanted to learn music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. When I grew up, I wanted to find a suitable family. Let's get married, right? Yes. How is the other person? Have you seen them? There are portraits, and they look handsome, but handsome. Is she very manly? What does face mean? The first time I heard the word man, my face was covered in question marks. It's a long story, man, barbaric, sweating profusely, my family, it's a bit embarrassing to talk about. If there were Baidu Gao to find a high emotion for myself, business chat app, on the surface, it seems calm, but Chen Ku's heart is in turmoil. Just now you said you were not free, right? Isn't it okay for someone to leisurely watch the scene below? Or is it because someone is monitoring you, forcing you to be free? Well, when I say freedom, it's not someone monitoring you. It's because you can't do what you want to do. I have been forced to do things I don't want to do, and now I have reached a dilemma where I feel like I am slowly becoming an object and being used casually. Also known as a tool person, Chen Ku agreed, tool person. What is that thing? Well, that's not something, it's a person, and it seems difficult to explain to you. It seems like I haven't officially introduced you yet. Hello, I'm Chen Ku, Chen is the Chen of the stars. Ku is Jing Ku's Ku. I haven't known the respected name of the second brother yet. I should have introduced him to you before, have you forgotten? A few days ago, I've seen it before. But you didn't call me that name back then. Why has it changed now? You said my name has changed. Yes, you said your surname is Zhou. To be honest, I have lost my memory. I can't remember my original name, maybe it was when I accidentally entered your cousin's room. We met for the first time. By the way, could you tell me your name? Humph, I have already introduced it before, so it feels a bit strange to introduce it again now. My surname is Song, and I have a unique name. Song Yi, a graceful demeanor, isn't it? You said your name is. How old are you this year? Chen Ku. Continue to ask him. I am 16 years old this year. How old are you this year? I am 32 years old. 32 years old. Well, yes, it's twice as big as you. Is Song Yi surprised to be 32 years old? How can't I tell? You look like an 18-year-old boy. Chen Ku suddenly remembered. Seems like myself. I'm not a person in this world, I think I'm not old enough. Oh, I forgot. What should I do? Chen Ku. I am thinking of a way to make up for it. I'm joking, how could I be 30.2 years old? Look, I'm not tall now, so I might be about the same age as you. Speaking, Chen Ku pointed to his entire body. In fact, I subconsciously stated my age in real life, but in order to avoid too many other misunderstandings, I pretended to be joking. Song Yi said skeptically. Okay. To alleviate embarrassment. Chen Ku said again, do you know where the restroom is? Is there a restroom? Well, yes, the restroom. What is the restroom? Is it a room specifically designed for washing hands? Well, it's hard to explain this to you clearly. It's similar to what I mean. Well, I just want to see what I look like now. Song Yi seems to have been teased by his language, how could it be that he doesn't recognize his own face alone? Well, there's no restroom, but it's not far ahead. There's a mirror in my room. Have you never looked in a mirror before? Well, I'm not. What I mean is that I haven't touched the mirror since I lost my memory. I want to see what I look like now. Well, I don't really want to enter your house now. I'm afraid I'll get dizzy and fall asleep if I go in, said Song Yi jokingly. There's a pond not far ahead, you can go and take a look. By the way, you can take a shower inside to wake yourself up. By the way, you can go there. Chen Ku smiled awkwardly. It's been a while since I've been here, and it seems like I haven't taken a shower. After smelling it, my body doesn't have any strange smell. Song Yi, second brother. By the way, I also want to know what happened that night. After I accidentally broke into your cousin's room, what did I do? You did fall asleep, but my cousin was quite scared. She is also sleeping in the same bed with a man for the first time, and girls are very important to her. When I saw her, she was about to cry out, but you still slept soundly. Then I found her and found Zheng and Chun, and you also know the rest of the story. Well, little brother, I have a heartless request. Please help me apologize to your cousin. I was really unintentional and caused trouble to her. I will definitely come to her door and apologize another day. I will go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and wait for her mood to calm down a bit. You need to apologize, maybe it's too late because she has been through this day. Black is about to leave, and so am I. Because I'm just accompanying my cousin to relax, I may not be here for a long time. Okay. After your cousin calms down, I'll visit and apologize again. I guess she won't be able to accept this matter yet, so please help me apologize first. It's not about apologizing, but conveying my apologies to me. Okay, you kid, apologizing is not like apologizing. You should know that the reputation of a girl is very important now. If a man does this, she will be forced to commit herself. Otherwise, a girl's life will be over and she will be labeled with an shameless name. However, my cousin is not mentally prepared. If you go now, it will have the opposite effect. I can help you ease up and speak up, but you owe me a favor. Okay, Chen Ku nodded slightly, with something in mind but slowly let it go. Also, I want to know where this is, pointing to this restaurant. This is Xianheng Restaurant. This is my uncle's restaurant, and I would like to ask if you know Qin Yumo's residence. Qin Yumo. Spring and Zheng have already checked it a few days ago and gave me this map. They shook their hands and said, well, if you give it to me, then I owe you another favor. If you need it in the future, please feel free to come back to me if I'm still here. There is something in Chen Ku's words, because he thinks he is not from this world and will leave sooner or later. However, he also hopes that leaving will not owe him anything, but I assure you, I will definitely keep my promise and give your sister and you an explanation. The younger brother didn't hear any implied meaning from Chen Ku, just felt that Chen Ku owed him something. With his family's strength, even if it reached the ends of the world, it was impossible to escape. However, Chen Ku's new ideas were not something he could have anticipated. Visiting Qin Yumo. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chen Ku got the map and bid farewell to Song Yi. He was about to go downstairs, but found that Zhang and Chun were going upstairs. What does Chen Ku think of? My body was about to move back when Zhang and Chun saw him and immediately grabbed Chen Ku. Their hands once again propped him up against the wall. Zhang said, last time, you fooled me by saying that you are very familiar with second brother. Yesterday, when I asked, I found out that second brother was not very familiar with you. Your ability to deceive people is unparalleled. Chun Gu added, although I didn't really believe what you said, I was already fooled by you. I'm really unhappy. Kid, what are you doing now? Did you deceive our little brother again? You have a lot of courage, kid. You can just deceive us and still deceive our second brother. It's amazing. I really admire it, but now we can't be fooled by you anymore. Hurry up and tell the truth. Chen Ku said innocently. I said you two brothers can talk too much. I just met your second brother for the first time, and I didn't say how good it was. Do you believe it yourself? If you insist on saying that your second brother and I are very good, I just think that he is a kind person. He won't blame me and you for this matter. Instead, he says that he has a good relationship with me, so I have no choice. People only want to believe what they want to believe, so I didn't say it, but it doesn't mean I'm lying to you, do you know? Zhang and Chen were scratched by Chen Ku's words. Song Yi, with a smile, said, you too, let go. He has already told me about his cousin's situation, and it's not his fault, but he has already expressed his apologies to me. He has other things to do and when he comes back, he will come to visit and apologize. Chen Ku replied that he was right. I need to go find Qin Yumo now. Ask him why. I feel dizzy when I see 4 words, and it seems that he intends to guide me into that room, possibly due to other reasons. So I'll prove it myself first. Don't come with either of you. If you come, Qin Yumo may not be telling the truth, which may delay our real investigation. Song Yi nodded slightly. Yes, you can go. If you come back later, you can still see my cousin. When the time comes, you can say your apology orally first, so that she will have a little psychological preparation. Okay, I'll go first. I also want to ask when your cousin will be back. About 2 hours later, Chen Ku. Alright, I will come back as soon as possible and say 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times before going downstairs. Second brother, do you just trust him like that? What if he leaves? He won't do it. We need to go. I was already able to leave yesterday. Being able to stay now indicates that he is at least a responsible person. Believe my choice is right. I just don't know the consequences. What kind of result would it be? What else does Brother Zheng want to say? Stop talking, Brother Zheng. We need to pack up and go home, replied Brother Chen. Pack up and go home quickly. I don't want to stay in this place for too long. The men here are so drunk. As he spoke, he entered his room alone to pack his things, and Chen Ku hurriedly went downstairs and left Xianheng restaurant. After leaving the restaurant, take a deep breath in an instant. Quietly speaking, is this still a dream? When can it be ahead? Speaking. I started researching Song Yi's map. There are 2 roads to take, one is a bustling street, Chen Ku is cautious. Choose this one because he thinks. If you lose your direction, at least someone can ask for directions. You can walk on one side. Look around. This floor is all unique and unique. It has a style highly reminiscent of the Republican era. Chen Ku walked and watched as he gradually forgot his true purpose, sometimes watching birds and sometimes watching talent shows. There are really many people, and their talents are also quite exciting. However, when testing the audience, everyone looked at each other, until Chen Ku touched them in front of the passengers. I touched my pocket and found several copper coins. It's probably my own wages, It must be like this, forget it. Anyway, I might not be here for a while. What if we give them first? What about it? In fact, Chen Ku had his own idea and needed to get something from Qin Yumo. While thinking about it, he slowly followed the map and arrived at Qin Yumo's home, in front of his door. Qin Yumo's home is located in a corner of the small town, surrounded by narrow alleys. The road surface paved with blue stones has been uneven by the wheels of time. The house itself is a wooden structure. After years of wind and sun exposure, the original vermilion color has become dull and lifeless. The faded wooden boards are covered in cracks, and the roof tiles are incomplete. In some places, the rafters can even be directly seen. I knocked on the door and waited for a long time, but no one answered. I carefully pushed the door open, and a rotten smell rushed towards me. The door panel creaked. The room was dimly lit, and the air was filled with a damp smell. The walls are mottled and indistinguishable, and the corners are covered with moss. The furniture was already dilapidated and dusty, as if it had been forgotten for a long time. The window, due to its long disrepair, cannot be completely closed. Through the damaged window pane, one can see the broken tables and chairs inside. Everything here seems so dilapidated and desolate. Where did Qin Yumo go? He wandered around inside, seeming to be a place where no one lived. Chen Ku murmured to himself in confusion at this moment. An ant walked towards her. Chen Ku stopped her and asked where Qin Yumo was going. The ant said she hadn't seen him for several days and asked Chen Ku to go nearby for a stroll, maybe you could meet him. Chen Ku entered the door again, ensuring that there was indeed no one inside. I can only leave helplessly. Next, he looked at the map again. It has been decided now that he needs to take the closest route back to the restaurant to find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Firstly, to quickly return to the hotel. Secondly, Chen Ku is accustomed to this and should indeed take another route. The current environment is not familiar, so he should take one more route and become more familiar with it. Chen Ku looked at the map and walked along a main road, only to find that the flood was full and submerged the road. The yellow water, I don't know how deep it is, but there are pedestrians who are not afraid of the depth. It should be very dangerous to swim there because they don't know the depth. Chen Ku hesitated whether to swim. After passing the intersection of the main road, he passed a pair of carriages and horses at the end of the road. Chen Ku fixed his eyes and saw that it was really Zhang and Chen, riding horses with no authority. Chen Ku saw the two of them clearly, jumped his feet, waved forward with force, and Zhang, who was observing and hearing from all directions, noticed him. He first stopped the horse team, and then turned back to report to the people in the carriage. The action seemed to have been agreed upon, and Chen Ku turned around and walked towards him. Chen Ku felt that he should be sitting in the carriage as his cousin. Thinking about his apologies for her, he didn't want her to wait long and didn't care much about it. He began to slowly cross the river, and if nothing unexpected happened, there should be an accident. I saw the voice of an elderly woman in Chen Ku's ear. "Child, they said you were sick and needed this instrument to treat your illness, but they promised me that as long as you read your diary regularly, it would be beneficial for your recovery." Upon hearing this sound, Chen Ku felt dizzy in his head, like waves of sound hitting his head. Suddenly, Chen Ku couldn't stand firm and stepped into a deep pit on the road. The lowest part of that pit could be deeper than Chen Ku's height. With the blessing of dizziness, Chen Ku struggled in the water. After drinking several sips of water, Chen Ku wanted to stand up but couldn't reach the ground with his feet. The more he struggled, the more panicked he became. However, his voice in his ear became clearer, as if speaking in his ear. In July 2001, he fell into the water diary. I really fell into the water and woke up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Note: do not imitate dangerous actions in this article. To be clear, the author never believed that after death, one would return to a certain world. Death is truly death, disappearing from this world. Please do not ascend to the real world. This article is mainly for the needs of the plot. The increasingly clear voice in Chen Ku's ear, Diary of Falling into the Water in July 2001. I fell into the water today. These days, the reservoir next to the town has been drained, and then the water from the reservoir flooded the low-lying areas of the road, forming a river-shaped pond. There were many people playing back and forth in the water next to me, and I was curious. When we played together for the first time, there was no danger. However, on the second time, we accidentally stepped on a low-lying area. This low-lying area is usually used for growing rice, and the total height is even higher than my height. After stepping on it, because I was not mentally prepared and couldn't swim, I struggled there for a long time. Maybe for a minute, a boatman on the roadside, who had to take a temporary boat to collect passengers at the end of the road that didn't want to swim, saved me. I didn't say thank you because I was shy, and then I went home alone. I didn't mention this to my parents because I felt it was too embarrassing, but I didn't realize the danger at the time. If I couldn't save myself, I might already be a corpse. Follow up. The boatman found my parents, because saving someone is usually equivalent to snatching back a soul from the Yen Prince, so there is a custom of going to the underworld to give red envelopes. At that time, I was also very calm. My parents just smiled and gave me a red envelope. In retrospect, if I really couldn't save it, then I really couldn't come back. As soon as the voice in Chen Ku's ear fell, he felt his body being lifted by a force. Chen Ku struggled fiercely, but his body sat up from a bed and only noticed. Lying on a hospital bed, sitting next to an elderly aunt, she was probably the person who had just read a diary in his ear. But Chen Ku was convinced that he did not have any memory of the aunt's face in his mind, but the aunt was extremely excited when she suddenly woke up to Chen Ku. At this moment, the alarm in front of the hospital bed sounded. The woman nervously hugged Chen Ku and muttered, "They didn't lie to me, really, reading a diary can wake you up. They didn't lie to me, really, I can wake you up by reading a diary. Ku-er, are you okay, Auntie? Thank you. Thank you for reading this diary in my ear. While you were reading Japan, I was dreaming. I heard very clearly, very clearly. In my dream, I happened to fall into the water, so it is possible that the critical value of this instrument was triggered. I was able to wake up from my dream. Thank you very much, Auntie, for saving me. Auntie, Ku-er, don't you know me anymore? You're not me, it's your mother." Tears welled up in my eyes as I spoke. "I just read your diary, take a look at it." With both hands, I opened the first page and anxiously wanted to show it to Chen Ku. Chen Ku stared at the first page, which was the same ant as before. Reading a sunset diary. The handwriting of the diary is officially the same as that of the diary in the confession scene at that time. Chen Ku can be sure that his handwriting is basically the same as that of the diary, but he still can't recognize the person claiming to be his mother in front of him in his mind. What day is the week of his aunt today? What is the date, Ku'er? Do you really not know me, but do you really not know me? What day is it now? It's Wednesday, why are you asking this? But I don't remember the exact date anymore. They took my phone, and besides, I've been trying my best to wake you up from your coma in the past few days, but I haven't noticed the passage of time. If you mention it now, I can't remember it for a moment, but that's not the point. Can you take a look at this diary and keep it? The alarm is ringing, they are coming soon. Ku'er, you need to live well. The dream you are talking about may be a scene they created for you. You must live on, and living on may be useful for your illness. Can you keep this diary? I accidentally heard what they said. It was said that the instrument on your wrist could transmit text as a copy, so you tried to copy the content of this diary. As you approached Chen Ku's bracelet, the bracelet shot a beam of light towards the diary. Under the illumination of the beam, the diary quickly flipped through the pages. After turning to the last page of the diary, it miraculously burned up, and the fire was very strong. The ant added that perhaps it would enter the dream you mentioned. You must remember to read your diary, which may have a restorative effect on your memory. I also hope you live well, Ku'er. Before we could finish speaking, 2 white coats rushed into the ward at the entrance. The first one was the white coat we encountered in the first scene a while ago, with their eyes facing each other, but this time, Chen Ku did not have any fear. He sternly asked, "What do you want to do? What have I done now? Are you treating me as an experimental subject?" The white coat coldly said that you have committed a crime. We are in accordance with national laws and regulations, asking you to tell the truth. If you refuse to cooperate, someone will detain you in accordance with the law. I have not committed any wrongdoing, and you have no right to restrict my personal freedom. I want to sue you. Before I could finish speaking, Chen Ku's right hand stabbed again. Turning around, it turned out that a white coat had injected Chen Ku while he was not paying attention. At this time, Chen Ku's head was in severe pain again, and he slowly fell onto the hospital bed. White coat patted Chen Ku's cheek to confirm that he had entered an unconscious state. He questioned the white coat who was just staring at Chen Ku, and he would not wake up again. Didn't you say before that even if it was a daily diary read by his mother in front of him, he would not wake up again? Is it also impossible to awaken him? If you do this, it is not rigorous enough in the experiment, and it is a serious consequence. If he wakes up repeatedly, it may cause a memory bias in his brain. If he switches back and forth for a long time, it is most likely to cause confusion in his consciousness, which will cause permanent trauma to him. If we do not report the situation to the organization, this person may become an unconscious vegetative person. Another white coat interrupted his words. This is still being studied, and he has a strong consciousness. I just quickly browsed through the scenes in his dreams. He has just experienced a falling into the water and the corresponding details in his diary. Running a strong response, causing his body and consciousness to reconnect, allowing his body to be awakened and break free from the constraints of the instrument, becoming an experimenter who breaks through the constraints. Is there still a need for him to experiment? Should he immediately withdraw, said the white coat next to Chen Ku sternly. No, we can't publicly claim that our instruments are flawless and it's impossible for this matter to be leaked. He can only continue to be an experimenter. If this matter is exposed, its impact on us would be fatal, which would be a disaster for us. Chen Ku then opened his eyes on the other side of the dream.